Welcome, everyone, to the Just Economy podcast. This is the Community Reinvestment Alliance of Florida's podcast, the Just Economy, building Florida's Just Economy $1, one vote at a time. My name is Cornell Cruz Jr. I am the Executive Director for the Community Reinvestment Alliance of Florida, a nonprofit membership organization. We serve to ensure that the Community Reinvestment Act of 1977 is adhered to by the financial institutions. We build partnerships, collaborations, encourage them to speak to the community, invest in the community, in particular low to moderate income, as well as we help them form those partnerships with nonprofit organizations to help them accomplish their mission. We also educate on the Community Reinvestment Act to the nonprofit agencies, the community at large, corporations, as well as government. Welcome and thank you again for joining us. We have a very special guest, but before we get to Suzanne, I want to make sure that you know that we have a special announcement, or to put in your calendar for the special announcement. Our summit is coming in February 23rd. Summit 23 will be here again. This will be our 6th annual summit. It will happen February 23rd, 2023. So look out for all the invites. Look out for the best for our guests, our breakout sessions, and our best keynote speakers from around the country to come in and talk about issues and how we can help solve those issues. So we look forward to you attending that event. So today we're talking about something that's near and dear to everyone's heart. We're talking about financial wellness, financial literacy, financials in general. And I'm lucky enough to have an expert here, Suzanne Howell, who's going to be here to talk to us very, very shortly. And finances is on everyone's mind. We can't get through the day without that, but are we really educated on it? Do we know how to use it correctly? And do we know how to maintain our finances so we can be at our strongest? And we're going to talk about generational wealth and passing down that generational wealth so we can help our kids become stronger. And their kids can become stronger, and so on and so on. So this is a very, very important part of the Community Reinvestment Alliance of Florida and their message and building a just economy. So luckily, we were able to land Suzanne Howell. And Suzanne, thank you very much for coming and appearing.
Thank you for having me. I'm very happy to be here.
So Suzanne, I'm always interested in people's history. So please tell us a little bit about yourself, about your company, and how did you get to this line of work?
Okay. So I think it's always good to start at the beginning. I did not grow up with wealth. I actually grew up poor. And I saw from a very young age that when you don't have money, you don't have choices. And I saw my mom struggle. You know, we had some addiction issues in my family with my father, and it was difficult. And I realized at a very young age, this would not be my future. But I realized I would have to harness money. Understand money.
Okay, that's a very interesting term, harness money. I got to remember that.
And so I took it upon myself as a young child, paper routes, babysitting, pet sitting, anything I could do to make money. And get a job at 16, waitress, everything, you know, and be the first person in my immediate family to go to college. And so I decided I was just going to change my picture. And I became committed to that at a very young age. And then I did something at age 23 that changed the course of my life. I started investing.
Really?
Yes.
Do a lot of young people invest at 23?
I would like to hope yes, but I think the answer is probably no, because they're scraping by, they have student loan debt. There's a lot of reasons, but the key is starting young. That really is the key.
You know, that's an interesting concept, starting young. So let me ask you this question, and we're just gonna jump right into it because Suzanne has a lot of great information and a lot of great things that she wants to bring out. I think we're gonna be here a while. You know, investing young. I have 3 daughters, 28. My twins are 26, and I've talked to them about investing in savings accounts, but now they've really talked about investing in the vein of what you're speaking of. So elaborate a little bit on I don't want to say that the savings account is not true investing, but investing at a higher level.
And again, I'm not a stockbroker, so I can't give investment advice, but I can tell you what I did and what is so important. When you're young, you have time to wait out the volatility in the market. You have time to invest in diversified things and create wealth. And yes, it's going to go up and down. I took a big hit in 2008, but I was still really young, so I could ride out the hit. But if you're just investing in savings accounts and maybe CDs and a few things like that, the interest rate is so low, the return on investment is so low that you can't create real wealth. So to me, one of the underlying caveats of creating wealth is you have to invest. I'm not going to say what you need to invest in,
Of course not.
but you have to invest. And the younger you can start. I have my son, 22, almost 23. He's been investing for about 4 or 5 years now because I told him, I want you to follow my footsteps. I know this works. And he's doing it. And he's creating, not wealth yet, but he's creating money in his life.
Creating patience, right?
And creating patience. Yes.
So,
100%.
it's great that you bring that up and encouraging youth, because I'm going to be meeting up with my daughters next week, and I'm going to have this conversation with them. And that's why I'm really glad that you're here at this particular time. So, even myself, I've not invested in when we talk about investments, we're talking more about along the range of stock market and things of that nature, correct?
What I'm talking about, yes. I invested in the stock market and different funds and, took some risk. I did take some risk.
Gotcha. Okay, so I guess my big thing is this, and be honest, let me be honest with you, no patience, right? And the volatility of it is what scares the hell out of me. The president wakes up and his left ear is itching and he scratches with his right hand. That affects the market. You know what I mean? And that's the type of thing that scares me. But it sounds like you're encouraging making safe investments, doing research, taking the time to do the things that is necessary in order to be successful.
100%. And yes, the market is volatile, and I will say this, and I tell people, I was an extremely risky investor. I just decided I'm young. And what's the worst thing could happen?
Most young people, we do things when we were young that are so crazy.
But then I saw my money really growing, and I was like, wait a minute, I'm making money by doing nothing. That's a great concept. And so
everybody's wish.
Yeah, but you do have to have some nerves of steel. And when 2008 came and I lost a huge chunk of my portfolio, this is what I did. I'm not saying everybody would do this. I closed my portfolio and I continued to invest aggressively. And I said, ultimately, I'm buying low. And when I open up my portfolio down the road, I'm going to be either breaking even or ahead of the game. If I had withdrawn my money because I saw that huge tank, it would have been a loss right there, right? So I said, nerves of steel. And in 2008, I wasn't feeling too good. But I kept the patience, I kept my plan, and ultimately it paid off.
Understand. I got to get there. I've never been known for my patience. But how do we get not just young people, but older generations who just didn't have the confidence, didn't take the time, maybe didn't have the money. Probably that's number one. Didn't have the money, but didn't understand how this works. How do we get them? Because there's other ways. It's always been at least for folks, most folks that I know, that real estate was the only way. Right. But there are other ways, which is one of the things you emphasize, is what I like about your message, that, let's diversify. You keep using that word. Let's diversify and look at other ways in order to do this. But how do we get that education to the masses, especially those? I read an article in the Wall Street Journal that stated that less than 40% of the country actually invest outside of real estate. So how do we get them? How do we get them from here to here, as far as with the wellness and literacy level?
Right. And I think a lot of it comes with education. And again, I mean, I had a career in money, and I didn't go into my career, but I was a special agent for 22 years, worked for the IRS before that. I worked a lot of money.
Okay, you just scared me when you mentioned you worked for the IRS.
I worked for the IRS for 6 years.
Now I'm scared.
And I learned many things at the IRS. But one of the things I learned is it doesn't matter if you have a lot of money. If you don't know what to do with that money, I would go knock at doors of mansions of people that hadn't filed a tax return or paid their taxes in 4 years. And I
Wow.
was like, what is going on here? Why at age 24 do I know more about this than you do? So, it's not even necessarily people that don't have money. Of course, that's an issue if you don't have money, but even
Of course.
people that have money. So I would say number one, it's education. You might be uncomfortable. One of the things I do in my business is I say, no judgment. I will meet you where you are right now, because people have this shame around, I don't know enough about money. I don't have money. I'm in debt. Drop that at the door, because that will get you nowhere. And start to educate yourself. Start to open your mind to what the possibilities are. And we all hear those stories of people that didn't have a lot of money but ended up being millionaires because they were so disciplined in the way,
Sure.
and that can happen. So that is what I would say. And there's people like me, that have a lot of free content. There's a lot of people out there where we're constantly teaching and reaching and blogging. Just start getting into the stream of information and then see what you're learning, and then where do you want to go next. But you have to start. So many people get afraid about money that I call it the head in the sand approach. Never works. We got to go to eyes wide open.
That head in the sand approach of, as long as I keep my head down, nothing will happen, right?
Right.
But that goes both ways. Nothing will happen for you to profit by either if you just keep your head in the sand. You said something very interesting, and I like your approach that that there's no judgments, because people will not do something just because of the fear of being called ignorant, or the fear of being with that attitude of, you don't know, why don't you know this? They so they won't take advantage of people like you who provide those services, right?
Right. And for me, I'm more, like I told you, I don't invest people's money, but I help people understand what financial wellness is. I help get their money mindset right and get you in the right frame of mind. Budgeting, key. One of the core things I do is teach people how to live in your means, how to live within a budget, and then there's something I call pay yourself first. If you are not budgeting money every month to pay yourself, which means putting money in an emergency fund, taking a chunk and starting to invest, those are things that are putting money towards your retirement. You have to pay yourself first. And one of the things I say is, don't let the things in your life take away the freedom in your life. So put yourself first before you buy that pair of shoes, before you go out to the club, all those things that are fun.
Yeah.
But in the end, if you're not paying yourself first, in the end, that's not going to give you a lot.
Yeah, we all make that mistake. I have one of my daughters lives in New York City, Nicole, and Nicole always says to me all the time, "Dad, I hate this adulting thing. I really hate this adulting thing." I go, "So why?" I said, "You want the freedom of adulting,
Right.
but you don't want to do the things that have to come with adulting, like manage your money, like pay your own bills." I said, "But you have no problem with jumping on a plane and flying out to wherever to go to a concert, overnight. You have no problem with that. So let's get a little bit more educated about our money and how money works, and get you out of my pocket sooner or later. That's my ultimate goal." You know what I mean?
Every parent's ultimate goal.
That's my ultimate goal. So I think it's important what Susan just stated about getting rid of that fear of not knowing. I think that's, we don't know what we don't know. I get that. But that fear of going to someone like you to get that advice, because we're so afraid that we're going to be judged, you know what I mean? And Suzanne just told you she doesn't judge. The object of the game is to help you, not to judge you, and not to make you feel bad because you don't know something. I think that's a key important part of this.
Absolutely.
So as we talk about financial wellness, and you will hear me say over and over again, financial wellness, I kind of really despise financial literacy. Have some intonations that I just don't like. I
understand that.
financial
I like
wellness better. Yeah, I like financial wellness better. So we've really talked about to getting that fear away. So how do you propose? What are some of your proposals as far as getting that financial wellness and teaching children that? And what age should we start?
That's a great question. I'm going to do a shout out to someone I know. Evan Leapart has done an app actually called Kitty Credit.
Mm-hmm.
And this app is beautiful. This app is linked to chores for kids, but it teaches them about credit score while they're doing chores.
Mm-hmm.
Genius.
Mm-hmm.
And the parents buy the app. They teach their kids about credit score through doing chores. It's a complete win-win. So Evan knows I'm a big fan of his.
Yeah, I've met him. I've actually met him.
Shout out to you, Evan. But so something as simple as that. There's apps out there for kids. Evan's is a great one. But also talk to your children. I started talking to my son about money. I mean, not big money ideas, but basic money ideas that were to his level. And what we underestimate is the ability of children to learn what we think might be complicated. If we teach it to them in a way that is understandable and relates to them, and then you just build on that. So I would say start young. Start as soon as they can do chores. Link the chores to money, what Evan's doing to credit score, and then help them. I helped my son open an investment account when he was young. We opened savings accounts, and when he got a birthday present or a Christmas present, I'd say, why don't you take a percentage of that and let's send it directly to your savings account. And he graduated from high school with enough money to open up a pretty solid investment account with all those $10, $20, $50
It adds
been
up.
saving. It adds up. So it's getting kids in the frame of mind of abundance mentality and that I can do it. Like there has to be this core. To me, money came easy. I don't know why. I think because I saw what it was like to be poor and I didn't like it. And I was like, that is not going to be me. And I'm going to take it on and learn about money. And then I worked in, money related crimes most of my career in IRS, but it came easy for me. But even if it doesn't come easy from you, we complicate it in our brains sometimes because of our mindset.
Okay. So, that's something that I really want to strive for is as parents, we understand that we need to help our children, but I think it's to the point what you just said. We don't do it young enough because we assume that they're not going to understand. We just assume, oh no, I think it needs to be 18, but we should have started way before 18, because we had this tendency to just give them stuff instead of making them earn it and seeing how it's earned. And then I love that app as well because it directly relates to credit score, shows them how credit scores work. It shows them, I got to do something in order to get something. Nothing's for free. And trust me, I've been guilty. Believe me, I've been guilty. And it's very interesting because when you said that, I look back on my own experience with my girls. With the girls, I got them credit little debit cards that I can load from anywhere. I can load right from my phone whenever they needed it. Also got them cell phones, and this had to be they were like 12 and 13, 14 years old. You know what? They lost several cell phones. You know what they never lost? Was the debit card. I never, ever, ever had to replace the debit card, not once due to loss. Not one single time.
It's very interesting. So
that, when you said that triggered something in my head, I'm like, okay, wait a minute. I kind of went about this the wrong way, didn't I? I kind of went about it backwards. I should have put the first thing we learned in any economics class about supply and demand. I should have made that the forefront. I really like what you just said. Like I said, it definitely clicked with me. So as we move on and we talk about financial wellness and building that financial wellness in kids, you and I, right before the podcast started, we were discussing the Florida governor's implemented something for schools this year that children start learning financial literacy and financial wellness. What do you think about that?
Well, first of all, I think it absolutely needs to be in our schools. And I don't want to speak out of turn because I don't know all the details of that. But my understanding is it's going to be an elective. And if that is what it is, I don't agree with that. It needs to be part of the curriculum, not, maybe you can take this if you feel like it, because frankly, a lot of kids won't feel like it. And also, who's teaching the teachers? Because you have to understand financial wellness yourself. You have to be living financial wellness yourself. So one of two things, in my opinion, needs to happen. Either you bring in people like me, that this is what we do for a living, and we can teach the financial wellness to the kids, or you bring in somebody like me or another consulting firm and teach the teachers. Because I just can't imagine that you take a teacher that's never taught this in their life before and say, oh, by the way, this semester you're teaching financial wellness. How do they know what to teach?
Sure.
And so you either need to teach the teachers or bring in people that are specialists, because if we're going to do this as a state and spend a lot of money, which we are,
of course,
then let's do it right.
Yeah.
Let's just not throw it out there haphazard and say, now we're teaching financial literacy. I want to know the details, and I would love to offer my expertise to talk to somebody, but I think it's really important to how is this being implemented?
It's very interesting what you said about teaching the teachers. If I'm not good at practicing financial literacy or financial wellness, it's going to be very hard for me to teach it. Right. And just like I don't expect a person whose expertise is financial wellness to come in and teach history. You can't expect the history teacher to teach, or the general education teacher to teach financial literacy. One thing, and it's so interesting, I was really one of the few things I was happy with that he done. However, I was happy that he did do it. I remember when I was in elementary school, they partner you up with someone. You actually were issued a checking. You issued checks. We were taught how to write checks. You had a budget, like you just spoke about. You had a budget. You had to adhere to the budget. You had to make decisions. The teacher would throw something on the board. Okay, the car went down. Now what? What are you going to do? Are you going to go on this vacation, or are you going to fix the car? What are you going to do? And she actually went over the needs. And I remember that clicked in my head when we had our initial conversation that, yeah, we did have that back in the day. And it's interesting now that it needs to be brought back, especially when we see all the things that are going on, student loan debt, inflation, financial crisis, all those things. So I really applaud that. But I think as the school board and if you're watching this, contact Suzanne.
And my company, MoneyMaestra, that's what I special in financial wellness. I tell people I holistically teach people about money, financial wellness, how to get on the path to financial freedom, and how to flip that switch and get positive money mindset, because it all starts in your brain. It all starts with your thought process. So yeah, I hope that the state of Florida, is taking this very seriously.
Sure.
And is going to, because we can change lives. The government, school system can change lives. Financial wellness is imperative to almost everything that is going to happen to you. And I tell people, whether you want to hear it or not, money affects pretty much every single relationship in your life.
One way, shape, or form or fashion.
Exactly. So if money becomes a hindrance to you or a roadblock, then it's also going to spill over into your relationships.
Yeah.
But money is not an issue for me. So you know what? It's not an issue in my relationships. I know how to set boundaries. I know how to have positive money mindset. I know how to be patient. And so it's not a burden for me, and I don't drag it into my relationships. But what's one of the number one causes of divorce?
Yeah.
Money.
Money shapes it in some way, shape, form, or fashion. Even those who claim, okay, no, he did this or she did that. Money is somewhere in the line, and probably has to be one of our top 5 stressors in this country,
absolutely.
Right?
It's one. And I don't want to quote this without having the statistics, but I think it's either 1 or 2, money. And it's something that it really does start in the mind, because I've heard people say, well, I don't have any money. I'm like, okay, but are you here right now living this life? Yes. That's not going to change whether you have money or not. So let's just start where you are right now. And life is not stagnant. I grew up poor. If I believed I was going to be poor my whole life, I certainly would not be where I am now, but I didn't believe it. And we all know those success. Oprah's a huge success story. There's so many success stories out there, but it's got to start here.
And that's something that I really love that you keep saying and you keep emphasizing, is you want to meet the person where they are.
Absolutely.
And not come in with the berating of, why didn't you do this 5 years ago? Why didn't you do this 10 years ago? You're coming in from the mindset, okay, let's see where you are now, and let's try to get you to your whatever your goals are, and let's set some goals that are financial goals that are attainable, because we know what goals are supposed to be attainable.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes. And then you build on that. And listen, I have individual clients that, we have made so much progress, and all of a sudden the light starts to go off, and they're like,
there's nothing like that light bulb,
Susan,
man.
I'm starting to feel hopeful. I'm starting to see a brighter future. And I said, and all we did was work with what you had and build on it. So wherever you are. And then one of the other things that I think is very important, and I'm starting to break into going into the corporate world, and our corporations, small businesses, are you taking care of your employees? Because if your employees have financial stress, they're not going to be operating at their best level.
Exactly.
So we have these wellness programs in companies for physical, for mental, emotional. How about financial? Do you have a financial wellness program?
That's a great idea. That's a great idea.
Yet another thing where I want to help companies understand the win-win. Educate your employees, make them feel whole, taken care of, so that they understand how money functions. They're going to be happier and more productive employees. 100%.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I had never thought of it from that. I love it when people stimulate my brain. I've never thought of it from the corporate point of view, because we've been on them about having mental wellness workshops and classes and the mental wellness in a company. We've been on them about racial equality and DEI. We've been on them on those things. But that financial part of it is very much a big part of it, because if I'm thinking about, how am I going to pay this or pay that, I'm not going to do my best job at the office, right? I'm not going to be the best employee that I can be for you, and all those things come into play. So you have an ally, and I would love to let you have those conversations amongst the nonprofits as well, because we're businesses too. We're just in the nonprofit side of it. But and our employees are stressed as well, and especially in the nonprofit world where we can't afford to pay them what the corporate world would pay them. So that kind of doubles their stress as far as finances are concerned. So I would definitely love to make sure that happens. That we talk about some financial wellness symposiums and meetings to talk about that with the employees. So. I know that you, with my colleague Suzanne Jewell, you're working on something for financial wellness. Would you tell us a little about it, please?
We are. Suzanne Jewell, who is the mindful entrepreneur and just a wonderful human being, and who was my coach in the beginning. I met Suzanne through going to her workshops, and ultimately when I started, because I went from the government to running a business, and I'd never run a business before, and we became fast friends. And we started teaching some courses together. And then we had a brainstorm recently. She is at Patch of Heaven, which is a nature sanctuary down in the Homestead area. And we started talking about how youth, and particularly low and moderate income youth, don't have exposure to nature. And Suzanne was saying how youth are coming into Patch of Heaven and just being awed. And then I said, you know what else they don't have access to, Suzanne? They don't have access to financial wellness. What if we combine our forces and take your access to nature, and I'm a nature girl through and through, take Suzanne's, she's at a nature sanctuary, and then take my financial wellness training and combine them and create probably a day long, it would start out with, where you're in nature and learning about money, and make that connection. Nature is abundance and creation in action. When I see money metaphors everywhere in nature. And if you can link in your brain the abundance of nature with how money can be abundant, it's a brilliant foundation for these children, these youth, these teenagers to say, wait a minute, I can do this. I'm so excited about this.
Yeah, we're looking forward to doing this. They came to me, and I'm going to be looking at searching for sponsors for this. So sponsors, financial institutions, if you're listening, we're at the final phases of putting the project together, so I can bring it to you. I also loved it doing it in that environment because it's so relaxing.
Absolutely.
Suzanne has been my wellness mentor now for the last year and a half, going on 2 years now. So that nature thing, and like you said, there's so many metaphors. We look at the tree of life, or the money tree, and we associate dollars with grass and all the things that are in nature. So that I love the way that you guys were able to come together and talk about this. And I think being in that such relaxing atmosphere and actually learning something that's so valuable that every single person on earth needs, because none of us can escape it. None of us, we all have to be consumers. We all have to be, if you're an entrepreneur, you got to be a seller at some point, but we all got to use money. There's no such thing as not having to use it. We wish we didn't sometimes.
Well, we do.
You know, we all have to eat. We all have to purchase. We all have to do those types of things. So I really think this is a great idea, and I look forward to helping you guys promote this and getting funding for it in order to make this happen.
Thank you.
Do you see it? Do you see it as eventually graduating to adults as well?
I would love that, because I think there's so many. I'll give you an example. I taught a class at my friend's she's a teacher, gifted middle school students in a low income school.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, Susan, understand that many of these children are taking what you're teaching them and they're bringing it home to their parents because their parents haven't learned this. And that clicked in my brain. I'm like, wow, there's a whole group of people, and it's not just on wealth level, right? It's all out there that never learned these skills. And there's so many adults out there, and I know because this is the business I'm in, that just either never learned it or had a bad experience young, got in a lot of debt, and then think, I'm bad at money.
Sure.
I don't understand this stuff.
Yeah.
And then they're not taking the actions that you need to take to better your situation. And sometimes the actions are so simple, but if you don't know, then you don't take the actions, and then it builds on itself in a negative way. And then you're 50 years old, 60 years old, and you're like, oh my goodness.
How'd I get here?
How did I get here? So yes, 100%. And you know, I'm a pollinator gardener too. I'm a nature girl through and through. I see nature as a healer, as transformative. It is where I find my grounding. So I know when you combine nature with money, the results can be transformational. I know it.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you, and I love the concept of teaching the children. Actually teaches the parents, because it helps them learn a lot. And I brought up to you when we had our pre-production meeting, and I brought up to you about a woman that I was teaching financial literacy, and she brought up the fact, she said, Cornell, she said, I have problems keeping money. If I have $1 in my pocket, I feel like I got to spend it. So we were talking. She had no concept of savings. She just couldn't grasp the concept. If it was money in her pocket, she must spend it. So the more she talked, the more I thought. I said, so why do you think you're like that? And her answer to me was, you know what, Cornell? My mom spent money the same way. So she had learned from her mother, and without her having financial wellness and financial literacy and financial education, she wasn't able to show examples to her mother to help her mother change. Because I watch my kids all the time, and I tell them all the time, I learn stuff from you every day. Especially when they were growing up, I learned so much from you. It made me a better person just listening to you and seeing some of the things. And the mindset of a young person is kind of free and clear, right? Absolutely. Especially back in the day. Maybe not so much now because there's too much on the Google machine. But no, I'm not blaming social media. But there's so many other things that could distract them. But we learn a lot from our kids. So I think this concept of you guys of doing with the youth first, and maybe eventually graduating to adults, but the youth are going to take those same ideas that you guys teach. They're going to take them home, because as you talk about them, they're going to see that those things are happening at home, and that's what we want, right?
Absolutely. And we do learn so much from our kids, right? And most parents want their children to be happy and joyful. And if all of a sudden they're like, wait a minute, what's my child learning? This is interesting.
Sure.
Let me listen. I mean, that to me is just such a beautiful concept, that kids are teaching their parents, and then the parents learn off of that. And then we do graduate to adults, because to me, it's a family thing. If families can work together to teach each other how to be financially well, how to start creating wealth. Some people never think of the idea of creating wealth, but everyone can do it. you can. It's not rocket science, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you got to open your mind to it. And if you have that poverty, what I call the poverty mindset or the scarcity mindset of I'm always going to be poor, I'm never going to have money, I'm always going to work this job that I don't like. No, you can change it, but you've got to take a stand for yourself.
That's where it starts.
It always starts with you inside. And then you build on that. And then you work with people like me. You read, you grow. And then that builds on it. What people forget is you will start to get in flow. And then you will start to see things happening and go, wait a minute, I can do that. And that's exciting. That's part of why I do what I do.
Yeah, I can see that you have a lot of passion for it. And we need people like you who have a lot of passion for this type of work. One thing I will say for you, you'll never be without a job. That's the thing. Suzanne, it's been such a pleasure. I look for you. I would hope that you will come to our summit in February and speak about some things. We'd love to have you. I think this is a breakout session for my events committee. I think this is a breakout session. Financial wellness.
I
think this is a breakout session.
This is my passion and my purpose.
I think I got a panelist / speaker already. I always ask this question. If I gave you all the power in the world and you can make a change, what would that change be?
That's a great question. And you might think I'm going to say money, but I'm actually going to talk about nature because one of my primal passions in life is nature and protecting this planet because there is no planet B, right? And so it would be to open the consciousness of every individual to be interconnected with nature. And I think if we could do that, there would be so much more peace in the world. There would be so much more financial stability. And there would be so much more wonder in the world and joy. And when people are operating on a level of wonder and joy, magic happens.
That's a great answer. That's a great answer. And I think I don't have to give you power in order to do that. I think if we all just listened and we all engaged in that practice, this would definitely be a better place, and we can accomplish that very mission. I think that's something to look forward to. So one last thing, please, Susan, give us your contact information, your website, all those good things.
So Susan Howell, and AKA the MoneyMaestra, which most people speak Spanish in Miami, but it means money teacher. So you can reach me at MoneyMaestra.com. Follow me on Instagram. I would love that, at MoneyMaestra. And on Facebook, I have a MoneyMaestra page, and soon I will be TikToking.
I'm
not TikToking yet, but I will be soon.
You're going to be TikToking. So I got to follow you on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook, and your little TikToks will pop up. I'll make sure I share. I promise you I will share. Thank you so much, Suzanne. It's been a pleasure. It's really been and we barely scratched the surface of financial wellness. I really think that we just barely scratched the surface, but it was good having you here so we can get this ball rolling. You have her contact information. I'm already extending the invite for her to be at the summit, so get your summit tickets and be at the summit so you can meet her. I'm always, folks that know us and follow us know that I'm always loving to do email introductions. So if you have an organization and you want to reach out to Suzanne and you didn't get all of this down, please feel free to reach out to me, and I will definitely provide the email intro so we can get some financial wellness in our lives and understand that we can all build great financial health, right?
Yes, we can. We absolutely can, and it's been such a pleasure to share my passion, my purpose, and what I know to be true.
She's talking from experience, y'all. So again, thank you very much, Suzanne, and thank you so much for tuning in to the Just Economy podcast, sponsored by the Community Reinvestment Alliance of Florida. Again, my name is Cornell Cruz Jr. I'm the executive director. Please feel free to contact me at Cornell at reinvestmentalliance.org or Olivia, that's Olivia C at reinvestmentalliance.org. We encourage you, if you have something that you want to speak on in our podcast, whether it be community, whether it be corporate, whether it be education, please feel free to reach out to us. We'd love to have you on our podcast. We're constantly seeking podcast guests. We look forward to seeing you. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time on the Just Economy podcast. Thank you.